The video guys, we're working with your video guys, and they're just going to much this one.
Really?
Ken's on a cruise, and it's a scheduled change.
So you're advancing slides from down below or from up above?
No, actually I'll be doing camera, but Mark will be doing the slides.
Who?
Mark.
So he'll do the one who's advancing.
I get them up over and over the screen. Two parts to it. There's the camera. The guy that does the camera work, he puts them up on the screen.
Way too quick. No, she's doing the records. I'll introduce myself. You're breaking me. You've done this before.
I've done things like this before. I was inside. That's different.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I'll talk.
Hi. Wait. Are you not supposed to stay on the way to the washroom?
They're right inside the door. If you go inside the door, then you can sense where there is some traffic.
They are? Thank you so much.
Yes. Oh yeah? Really bad? Yeah, I knew there was something wrong, but it was making, and you were actually feeling some things too. From the last time I drove there, it was like 9 days. Okay, good.
I think it'll be.
No, I don't. Do you think you...
I might be able to adjust the higher, middle, and a little bit to get rid of that. You'll see. Of course, you're going to hear it a lot more. Yeah, turn it off. Good evening, everybody. scene.
No, we're getting. We're not getting.
I'm not getting what I was getting.
I'll listen for it. Not really.
Being nearby would be awesome.
When you start playing it,
It'll
but after you're done with it, do you go back and forth?
I'll hear it all later, yeah.
So after you're done with that,
Oh, yeah, you can listen to it all. Because I will go back. I finished with
when I
her.
see it out there, I'll come up here and turn this thing.
Okay.
Then you-
Yeah. Yeah, so it's the, yeah.
So right now, I just sort of buy all the stuff
You don't want to be in your face while you're playing. That's why you're going to be in your face now. Act natural. There we go.
and we are live right now. That little camera just stopped on my It's worked well in the past. It's like you have some friends. Good. You there.
Hi, Bridget.
So you're one of our bigger draws. Just people on the bill out Wait for I've had that on Sunday all the time. Actually, sure, they start the prelude after quiet. Church I played back in Mansfield, I played, and it didn't matter. Every once in a while I'd blast I was interfering with their talk. I thought it was the beginning of the worship. Every place is different. I played a lot of churches. All right.
I'm new here, so I'm not only welcoming you, but I'm welcoming myself. The former pastors, Bruce and Karen, have retired, so I'm serving as an interim here, be here for a little bit. So I welcome you. I'm guessing a lot of you are from the neighborhood as opposed to the church specifically, but I'm glad this is such a natural, integrated affair that we can have. Tasha Robinson. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the last of our series until the fall. So we saved the best until last.
Aww.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Hello and good evening. Hello, welcome. So I have brought two of my friends today. This is my Celtic harp. This is a 36-string harp, and it's called a Malone, the company that makes them, and they're made in California. And this harp over here is made in Chicago, so we have some American-made products right up here on the stage. Woo! And they're very different instruments. They're kind of like friends that met each other along the way and didn't know they were going to be in the same room together. This one has levers on it, and the levers give me the half steps, like the black keys on the piano. And this one has pedals, which do the same thing. You are enjoying what is called Falling in Love with a Leprechaun, celebrating St. Patrick's Day and all the music in the UK, primarily those of Ireland, but also Scotland and Wales. And we have a little path here, and we're going to go on our path today and enjoy our journey around the United Kingdom. It's going to be kind of like we hopped on a bus tour, and it's not stopping anywhere particularly. It goes from country to country. So what I started with was Gary Owen, and it's an Irish quick step. It's traced back to the early 1680s, and it was selected in 1867 and adopted by the General George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry Regiment. It is also selected as a marching tune for Australian, Canadian, American, and military formations. And I know that's true because when I've played it out and about, I've actually had gentlemen come up to me from the military and say, oh, I recognize that from my training days, and go on and on about the last time they've heard Gary Owen. So Gary Owen, being Irish, we're going to actually go ahead and head on to Wales. And this is Ash Grove. Now, the reason I remember Ash Grove is because at one point along the journey of my life, I had 12 little harp students, and we would go all over the place, all over Sarasota and South County, and we would share our harps with everyone. Most of them we built ourselves. And this was their favorite tune to play, Ash Grove. And the title of it, the story of it, is about a sailor's love for a lady named Gwen. And at the end of the song, Gwen dies, and he mourns her, and he says that she's lying near the shades of the lonely ash grove. So some of the lyrics: down yonder green valley, where streamlets meander, when twilight is fading, I pensively rove, or at the bright noontide, in solitude wonder, amid the dark shades of the lonely ash grove. 'Twas there, while the blackbird was joyfully singing, I first met my dear one, the joy of my life. Around us for gladness the bluebells were ringing, and little I knew, I thought then, how soon we should part. Ash Grove. The ash grove, how graceful, how plainly 'tis speaking. The harp, though it's playing, is still soft, it's still soft in my ear. I yearn to rekindle the past and its brightness. The dear one I mourn for again greets me here. Toward every dark shadow, replete with her presence, each step wakes a memory as slowly I roam. With soft whispers laden, its leaves rustle over me, the ash grove forever and always my home. The next selection, now we're going to Ireland, is Brian Boru's March. Brian Boru was a High King of Ireland, and he founded the O'Brien dynasty. And in 1969, this song was recorded by the Chieftains. Does anybody know who the Chieftains are? Woohoo! Yes! Yes! Awesome. It's also known as Piper's March, and this was played by one of the last great Irish harpers, Patrick Byrne. Now, if you play this instrument, and this is where you are, this is usually called your harper. If you play this instrument over here on the other side of the stage, you're called a harpist. So right now we're being a harper. Brian Boru's March. So on this journey, of course, you know, when you're thinking of the United Kingdom, you cannot help but think about Scotland, right? And one of my favorite Scottish tunes, Wild Mountain Thyme. This was first recorded by Francis McPeak in 1957. It's a sweet love song about the arrival of summer, which I think we were already experiencing here. It already feels like summer here. The arrival of summer with all its flowers and its scents of that time of year, and a young man who is searching for a sweet, long-lost love. It's also known as Will Ye Go, Lassie Go. And it's a folk song that's both very popular in Scotland and Northern Ireland as well. Wild Mountain Thyme. Oh, the summertime is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? I will build my love a tower near yon pure crystal fountain, and on it I will build all the flowers of the mountain. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? If my true love she were gone, I would surely find another when the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? The next one, A Fig for a Kiss. Well, so many stories about this. I had the pleasure in my life of teaching harp in Canada for about 12 years. Canada has a very formal training program for when you're studying with someone on a one-on-one basis and a private lesson. And it's called the Royal Conservatory Method. And there's a grade for each level, grade 2, grade 4, grade 6, grade 8. And so it's really structured. It makes it a lot of fun to teach because you kind of know where you're at all the time. There's a list of pieces you pick from. And so I had the pleasure of teaching a little girl A Fig for a Kiss, this little tune. Her name was Erica, and I remember her so sweetly. We had just started getting into that phase with Harry Potter. I'm sure you've heard a little bit about Harry Potter, right? And she loved Harry Potter, and her family was really, really big into Celtic music. Her father played bagpipes. And I remember she had bought one of her very first harps when I was training her. And we were lucky because, you know, you had two options where I lived. I lived above Syracuse, New York, in a little town called Kingston, Ontario. And so if you went and took your exam in Ottawa, then in Ottawa you usually got a piano teacher. But if you went and took your exam in Toronto, then you most of the time got a harp teacher, which was a really big deal. So she got a harp teacher and she had a great time. This is a Fig for a Kiss. It's a traditional Irish slip jig. Slip jig meaning that it's in 9/8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You want to join me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes. So, and there's actually a particular folk band called Lehigh Valley, and they call themselves a Fig for a Kiss. Sometimes this is known as Milk the Churn or Two in a Gig. So, Fig for a Kiss. And what I'm doing right now is going to another key when I put up these levers. Oh, the next one I bet you'll know. So we're going to head back to England. We're going to England now. We haven't been to England yet, I don't believe. We've been to Ireland and Scotland and Wales. And now we're going to England on our road to the other side of the stage, if you will. And this tune I thought was Scottish. Scarborough Fair. Yes, yes. So this is a traditional English folk song from the Middle Ages. And it's referring to an old fair in Scarborough, Yorkshire. It's a market fair that's comprised of traders, merchants, and other vendors that started somewhere between the 14th to the 18th century. And of course, this was made very, very popular by Peter, Paul, and Mary. Scarborough Fair. So just give me a second. So I'm going to go into a different key here. Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Remember me to one who lives there, for she once was a true love of mine. Have her make me a cambric shirt, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Without a seam, fine needlework, and then she'll be a true love of mine. Have her wash it in yonder dry well, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Where'er a drop of water fell, then she'll be a true love of mine. that might be, I think, I knew someone out there would know that one. I wasn't sure, but I was kind of hoping. So the next one takes us back from England over to Ireland. Again, we're on this crazy bus tour, aren't we? Carrickfergus. It's an old Irish folk song named after the town of Carrickfergus, which lies in the County Antrim in Northern Ireland. The Clancy brothers in 1964 put this on an album which they had titled The First Hurrah, and it was included on that album. As well, this tune is from a book called The Ireland Sings. The melody has been traced back to an Irish language song which was called There Was a Noble Woman. Carrickfergus. So I'm going to change keys here. So you'll see that I have all these red strings and these blue strings. The red strings are C's and the darker strings are F's. And so right now I'm going from E minor and I'm heading over to good old G major, which is just those blue. So it's very much laid out like a piano, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then so if I put up my F, now I have an F sharp. Carrickfergus. I think you'll love the next one. Loch Lomond. Oh, we're back in Scotland. Yes, we are. And Loch Lomond was originally about a lake. Obviously, it still is, but it was named from a man named Loch Lennox, or even Loch Leven. The Duke of Lennox was the main landholder in the area, and it is known to maybe have come from a Gaelic word meaning the Lake of the Elms, or it might have been referring to the mountain nearby, which was called Ben Lomond. Loch Lomond, the story though, is of two Scottish soldiers, and they're both imprisoned. And one of them was set to be executed, while the other was set to be free. According to the Celtic legend though, if someone dies in a foreign land, his spirit will travel to his homeland by the low road, the route for the souls of the dead. And it even mentions that in the lyrics themselves, so something to listen for. Loch Lomond. Here we go. Okay. By yon bonny banks and by yon bonny braes, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, where me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland before ye. For me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. 'Twas there that we parted in yon Shawnee Glen, on the steep, steep side of Ben Lomond, where deep purple hue in the Highland hills we view, and the moon coming out in the gloaming. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland before ye. For me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. The next one I know you'll know, because I learned it when I was a little girl in piano lessons. See, my dad bought the harp for my mom, and the harp looks something kind of like this one, sort of. It was about this size, and there were 5 children in my family, so mom was very busy. And so learning harp wasn't necessarily something that happened for her, but she did eventually learn the ukulele, and she sings. And when they were in Hawaii, she played in a band, a bunch of ukulele bands, and she's also a synchronized swimmer too. So she's a little fish. This is something I learned on the piano when I was wee little. Molly Malone. Does anybody recognize it as Molly Malone? Oh my gosh, it's really popular out there. Yes, yes, yes. This is Cockles and Mussels. And it's also, it tells the fictional tale of a fishwife selling her fish on the street in Dublin, and she does die of a fever. It's published in 1876 in Boston, and it's based on older folk songs. Molly Malone. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, 'twas there I first met my sweet Molly Malone. She wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. And so she was a fishmonger, and that was the wonder. Her father and mother were fishmongers too. They drove a wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. She died of the fever, and nothing could save her, and that was the end of sweet Molly Malone. But her Ghost drives a barrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. So speaking of Ireland, I always have these memories of Ireland. I was a very fortunate little girl. My father was in the U.S. Army when I was in middle school and high school, and we lived in Europe. And I got to live there when the wall fell. I got to live there during the first Persian Gulf War. That was a little rough at times. But I got to experience a lot of life, so much so that I was like, oh, can I just stay here and you go back? And I loved it. And they had all these bus tours. You could go to Paris for like $200 and you could go to Morocco. We even went to Morocco at Christmas one year. I was almost sold for camels. So yeah, I'm really serious. I was almost sold for camels. However, back on to what we're talking about here with the Dublin Streets. This is Dublin Streets. It's an Irish jig. It's in the first collection of dances from Ireland, and it's a slip jig. Again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what we clapped before. And it is originating from an Irish clan marching tune. And it was first published by John Playford, and he was the music publisher at the time for St. Paul's Cathedral. Now, I'll tell you something. I did get to go to Ireland with my father. We went to Dublin, and I was about 16 at the time, and my dad said, hey, Tosh, I've got the greatest thing for you. We're going to go to a pub, and we're going to drink something that has a harp on the outside of it. And I was like, what are you talking about, Dad? Like, who puts a harp on a cup? And so we go into the pub, and we're sitting there, and he orders a Guinness for me, and I'm like, oh, gosh. Ugh. And so I've heard about it, and I was like, oh yeah, the harp. And then I tried it, and to me it tasted like I was drinking like sap from a tree or something. It was just not my cup of tea, if you will. Dublin Streets. Mike's right there. So the last one we're going to share with my little friend here is Danny Boy. Now, I'm thinking Danny Boy, okay, that's got to be completely Irish, have nothing to do with the English, right? Not so. The lyrics were actually written in 1910 by a gentleman, an English lawyer named Frederick Weatherly. And a few years after that, he ran into his Irish sister-in-law, and she gave him the tune Londonderry Air, and he put it together, and henceforth, Danny Boy. Obviously, one of the most beautiful pieces. Oh, Danny Boy, the pipes are calling. From glen to glen and down the mountainside, the summer is gone, and all the roses are falling. 'Tis you must go, and I must bide. But come ye back when summer is in the meadow, or when the valley is hushed and white with snow. 'Cause I'll be here in sunshine or shadow. Oh Danny Boy, I love you so. So I'm going to give the harp a little bit of a solo in this on some of the higher notes, and I'm going to sing it, and I hope you enjoy. It's one of my favorites. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. 'Tis you, must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. So we're going to leave my little friend here and make a procession across the stage. My beautiful friend and close best friend out there, he helped me put this all together, and we made this little trail, and we have the 12 stones for the 12 tunes we just played, and we're going to make the journey across the stage very carefully over to the 23 here. This is a full-size concert grand harp. It's a 47 string. And you'll see it has pedals. It has 7 pedals for the 7 notes on the scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And I'm in heels because of this harp. If it was up to me, I would be in flip-flops for sure. Definitely. In fact, I'm the girl backstage with the flip-flops that waits to just put these on as I go on stage. So this harp came to me right in the mid-90s. I was going to school as a harp performance major, and I was switching schools from Cincinnati to Toronto. Cincinnati had a couple of harps, and my dad kept writing on that, like, oh, the college has harps, you're fine, you know, because it's a major investment between these two. It's a huge difference. And then when I moved to Toronto, he said, you better have your own harp. So this is grandmother, father, many family members involved. This one is made in Chicago by a company called Line & Healy, and they have been making them well over 100 years. When I was a child, I took a tour of the factory, and I saw how all the gold was gilded on the columns for the gold ones, and how everything was put together. And I went back for a tour about 3 years ago. I bought an electroacoustic harp. Each string has its own pickup, and it changes color depending, because it's iridescent. It's not here tonight, but it will be in future shows. And that harp, I got to do another tour. Now, obviously, I'm not 12 years old anymore, but some of the same people that were on the tour when I was 12 were still there when I was older. So I'm going to share with you When Irish Eyes Are Smiling, because I know that's something you would expect, and I would expect to hear definitely on a beautiful concert called the Falling in Love with the Leprechaun. And the Irish Eyes Are Smiling, this was published in 1912. And during the First World War, it was recorded by John McCormack, and it was also used as an opening song to a radio show called Duffy's Tavern. Now, the thing about this particular arrangement is it was arranged by a lady named Eleanor Fell, and Eleanor is who I bought my harp from at her store in Vanderbilt, which is across the street from Indiana University. And Eleanor is one of the first pop harpists. She played hotels all throughout the world and came up with lots of arrangements. So I'm going to find a little spot there for my okay, that'll work. And my pedals are all ready to go, and we're going to start. next selection, I'm sure you thought eventually she'd play this. From England, 16th century melody, Greensleeves, sometimes known as What Child Is This? So many stories about Greensleeves, if you ever look it up. Oh my gosh. There's some that say that Henry VIII, it was about Henry VIII's relationship with Anne Boleyn. And a lot of people look at it musically and say, no, that's no way that could be possible. It was written during the Elizabethan times. But this is definitely one of my favorite tunes, and one of the standards you learn when you're growing on the harp, or probably on any musical instrument. Greensleeves. Alas, my love, you do me wrong to cast me out discourteously, for I have loved no one but you who delight. I'm going to just give that a go. Here we go. Alas, my love, you do me wrong to cast me out discourteously, for I have loved no one but you, delighted in your company. Greensleeves was all my joy, Greensleeves was my delight, Greensleeves was my heart and joy, but who but my lady? Greensleeves, I have been ready at your hand to grant whatever you would crave, for I have loved both life and land, your love and will for to have. Greensleeves was all my joy, Greensleeves was my delight, Greensleeves was my heart of gold, who but my lady? Greensleeves. Thou couldst desire no worldly thing, yet thou hast it readily, thy music for to play and sing, yet thou wilt not love me. Greensleeves was all my joy, Greensleeves was my delight, Greensleeves was my heart of gold, and who but my lady? Greensleeves. I had to remind myself I'm not on the lever harp anymore. It's the pedal harp, a little different. So our outgoing number, and one of my absolute favorites that I love, actually we've got two to go here. This one is Morrison's Jig, and it's from Ireland, and it was named after an Irish-American fiddler named James Morrison. And he recorded it in the 1930s. Morrison didn't write this, though. He obtained it from a friend, and his friend was found to be an accordion player in a band that he played in. So his friend said it was called, oh, that's called Stick on a Hob. And he said, I'm going to call it Morrison's Jig. So as the jigs and the reels went through the different centuries and the different folks, they changed names for sure. So do enjoy, this is Morrison's Jig. And so now I'm going to go from the key of F to the key of D. I'm moving two pedals. So yeah, it's neat to hear at the bass and hear way up here too. We don't get that over there. The last one for this evening that's my favorite is the parting glass. Now I think about the parting glass a lot because I've used it so many times in different settings. It's a melody that was first collected in 1782. And a parting glass, or sometimes called a stirrup cup, is a part of hospitality when you're having the last meal with your family, or someone that's leaving that you've loved for a while, or maybe your mother, your father, sister, friend. And this tradition dates back to the Saxons. This tune was first printed in Lauchlan's Irish Street Ballad, and it's also a Scottish traditional song, most popular in Scotland. It was most popular before Robbie Burns and the Auld Lang Syne. So, you had the Auld Lang Syne, and before that was the Parting Glass. So I'm going to show this as one of my most favorite, and I'm going to make sure you get to hear all of the harp, from the very low to the very, very high. Enjoy.
For coming tonight. I wish I'd worn my tartan. I would have felt great. But I now have a new favorite harpist, and also I have a new favorite harper. So I'm delighted that you're able to share this evening, and I thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Another round of applause if you're listening.
Yes, and if you have any questions or any questions about the instruments, you are more than welcome to please come on up. I am a very friendly person, and I love questions. I love the way people think about things, and how did you get that in the car, and why did you buy it like that size, and why don't you play the flute, and all those fun stuff. Yeah, I'm used to those too, but yeah, please come on up. I'd love to share whatever you have any questions on at all. Feel free. Thank you very, very much.